All right. Welcome everybody to Ecophysiotherapy Presents Health, Wellness, and Lifestyle. My name is Madeline Golick, and I'm a pelvic floor physiotherapist as well as the owner of Ecophysiotherapy. And my guest today is Amanda Gazzola. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. Hello, Madeline. How are you?
I'm super wonderful. The weather's nice, so it's time to be cheery, and I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, I agree. The weather is just amazing right now, and I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I thought maybe we could start off by just a common question. Tell us a little bit more about you.
So I am a lifestyle coach. I help women re-love themselves and help find their passion and rediscover who they are. Obviously, this all comes from where I used to be, and it's been 10 years in the making of going through a lot of trials and tribulations with myself and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And it started off with losing weight, and from there just got really addicted to fitness and feeling good. And now I am here and able to serve women. And on the side, I just love hanging out with my puppy named Iggy and going for walks with him. He is the little love of my life as well as my husband. We both just adore him so much. And my husband is my high school sweetheart.
Aww.
So we've been together 18 years now.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so nice to hear. So you mentioned this has been a 10-year journey for you. So what started your journey into the fitness part?
Well, because I really truly did not like how I felt, or I was very ashamed of who I was. And this is something that obviously stems from growing up. Big time. I just was never comfortable in my own skin. I always tried to be like other people and try to emulate what they're doing, because in the end, it's just about feeling accepted and feeling wanted so that you can feel like you have more fulfillment with friends and whatnot. But the way going in about that is not the most ideal way, because in the end, you're still fighting with yourself. And when I graduated from advertising in Sheridan, it was in 2008, and that's when the recession hit. And a lot of people were not looking for anyone in advertising at the time. If anything, a lot of jobs were being let go. So I volunteered for a fitness competition. Because I'm like, I like health and wellness, so let's see what this is all about. And just seeing the women on stage and meeting so many people, it was intimidating but amazing at the same time, because I got to see what confidence looked like, and the fact that they were still nice and being able to share their journey. I was like, wow, I got to find out more about this. So from there, I hired a personal trainer and did my first competition about 7 months later. And from there, it's just the rest is history with like what fitness has done for me. But I definitely I learned a lot more along the way that mindset is the next big, huge thing to work on. So I got where I wanted for my goal for losing the weight and learning how to maintain it. But then the psychological part and working with the mindset, I still saw myself as the same way. So that was another piece that I had to work on, but it was through that I got into fitness.
Yeah, you mentioned that you got benefits from fitness. Can you let us know maybe some of those things that you
Yeah,
benefited?
no, yeah. So what I benefited was learning a lot more about the industry, learning a lot more about myself, and learning about what I was putting in my body, and learning more about food intolerances along the way, because it's amazing. When you start eating healthy and you're trying to diet down for a competition, my stomach was not dieting down like how the rest of my body was. And through that, I learned that I had a really big dairy intolerance, and at that time I was having whey protein and having eggs. I know that eggs are kind of a little bit separate from, but at the same time, it's just learning what the body, the sensitivities that you kind of, I did not know that at the time, and I would eat stuff and then I would be puking because I thought I would eat too fast sometimes. And you're like, that's not actually normal. And you know what I mean, at the end of the day. And like when you start taking stuff out and eliminating and seeing from there, it was just like, whoa. And you put it back in your body, like, wow, there is an intolerance. And that was a huge finding in myself, because then I got to learn about what that learning what you're putting in your body, learning how the body digests and how to, not having those bathroom problems and all. That was probably one of the biggest benefits, as well as having way more energy and literally feeling better in a bikini, feeling better, not tugging on my shirt and having a towel around me all the time, like, shoulders back a little bit more. Those little things that make the world of a difference for confidence.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Okay, so you've gone through this fitness change, and then within that diet change, lifestyle change, what was it that really got you interested in helping people connect with themselves? Where does that part come in?
I think that through that, I love help. I've always wanted to help people. That has been something I've always wanted to do since I was younger. I did not know how that would kind of pan out because how I felt about myself. But one thing, when I started going through my journey, people started coming up to me and asking me a lot of questions. And I was like, wow, I actually have answers. And that was like one of the biggest cues. And I think another thing is I don't want anyone ever to feel like how I felt, because I understand where they're at, and I just want to help them to get them to that place of feeling, strong and beautiful, and on the inside just as much as the out. The inside is the hugest part, and I just know the journey and what it takes. So I think that support is something that I just always want to be there for women for.
So having said, why do you think we as women are feeling lost and disconnected from ourselves? Any thoughts? Or
yeah, I have a lot of thoughts in regards to that, because as I've been working with clients and working on myself, I know, I might not be a mom, but I'm just as much of a giver. I love making people happy. I will go out of my way. If there's something that's not right and they're feeling something, I will be over it. Just like with my friends and my family and whatnot, I will go out of my way to make them do something. And I think that's a natural thing that women, that we do. And I think the more we do that, the less that we concentrate on ourselves and like learn about who we are, learn about what our fulfillment is. And I think we feel selfish at the end of the, if we do those little things for ourselves, giving us that space, because you just want to be the ultimate best, but at the same time, you have to fill up your cup a little bit more. And I would say start small. Don't start this is it, because you want it to make it more into a lifestyle. So giving yourself that little bit of time and understanding what makes you happy, where you're spending your time, who you're spending it with, if these people are a part of your circle. I think having that awareness is so huge.
Thank you for that. Yeah. What about self-confidence? I'm sure men have the same issues with self-confidence, but why do we struggle with that? Why is that a struggle for us?
That's a big question. And I think it goes along the same lines of not spending time and learning about yourself. And giving yourself that space to do the things you want to do, and working on yourself. I do believe that both of those work very hand in hand, because I believe you can't have one without the other. And the less that, I don't know, and I think a lot of the time, I know this used to be me, and it still is, where I struggle, where I feel like if I don't get things on the first try, then I'm out. I feel like I have to always get things on the first try, whether it be, doing a recipe for the first time, doing a sport for the first time, doing something out of my comfort zone. And because you feel like you have to have this stigma that if I didn't get it the first time, then I'm not good at this. And so that always is that wears and tears on the ego. And I think that it's one of those things if you did this to your kid and the kid stopped that first time, you would encourage. So I feel like we lose that a bit of encouragement for ourselves, and having maybe that support as well is always huge in the confidence booster as well. So I think both work hand in hand.
Yeah, I seem to be returning to the same saying of progress, not perfection, right? I can only speak for myself, but I find myself getting caught in that trap too, of wanting things to be the way I envision them. And if it isn't, then, I get really hard on myself. And, You know,
Totally.
we can become our own worst enemies rather than being our friend. Like we would never do that to a friend, you know, like we would never talk the way we talk to ourselves to a friend, you know. So it's like we need to kind of work on that mindset, like you were saying, of turning it around and being like, why do we talk to ourselves that way?
Yeah, why are we make things a lot, to me, I feel like we make things so much harder than they have to be. And because we're hard on ourselves, it's striving for that perfection, but there is no such thing. Like everything is just always a learn. Instead of a mistake, it's always a learning opportunity, because you're only going to get better and better if you keep on doing it. I mean, that's how business is too.
Oh,
When you
absolutely.
work for yourself, it's a constant work in progress. And we are just the same as a work in progress. We have to constantly stimulate that mind and muscle, and making it like stronger and stronger, just like working out, just like anything in life. It's just constantly working on yourself, and it only gets easier the more you do it.
Absolutely. So I want to, so because you like you're a coach, so what are some ways that you help women start building their self-confidence? Like what are some tips that you use or strategies? Like how do you help?
Yeah, so this is a really big thing that I've been working on, because what my how I worked and how I worked on myself. Not many people would do that. Where was willing to do everything and anything, and it's not saying not anyone is, but making it into a lifestyle is the ultimate goal out of all of this, because you want to give yourself time to get better. So giving yourself one habit is how I start off with women, one habit at a time. And they work on this habit for 2 weeks. And the reason why I do that is because anything that you want to do when it comes to making a change, it should be easy, like laughable, easy, because you're starting something that's completely like new to you. And the thing is, you want to build up that confidence, build up the momentum, build up that self-esteem. And through doing something like how I start, where they will eat slower. I mean, I know, as I used to, because I was working for we were doing a fitness competition and stuff like that, I would inhale my food. And it's because you're hungry, you're eating off of a whim. As a mom, like, I don't even know if there's a such thing as a time where you get to sit and eat because you're constantly go, go, go. And so when you're doing that, you don't know how hungry you are. You're not checking in with yourself on how the food is digesting. Everything is just like nonstop go. And that is the way life is sometimes and whatnot. But that just slowing down a little bit and having a bit of that awareness is where I get women to start, by starting one habit at a time. And then we build up from that, because you have to anchor the habit. So you kind of mesh in back and forth with the mindset, the awareness, and being like having that confidence. So the next one would be eating till 80% full. Just get them building up from that. And then every 2 weeks. So this is a very slow process, but I rather slow than a cookie cutter program any day of the week, because that's why there's so many, and there's nothing wrong with a fad diet to get you to where you need to be, but learning how to sustain that is the ultimate goal. And so this is where, if you are doing that, maybe it's going in and starting slow like that after the fad diet is done, so you're checking in with yourself as that muscle starts building and getting stronger.
Yeah. That seems smart, because I mean, part of the lifestyle is learning, and the brain itself is wiring itself to that new habit. And you have to first like lay down the first copper wire, and then every time you practice, it lays down more and more copper wires, which makes it easy to go down that route, because you're basically creating the trail in the forest. So at first it might seem, some challenging, and then that's why you bring in help and you have people encouraging you in those initial days. And then as you go, you begin to learn how to actually incorporate that into your day, and it becomes easy.
Yeah, and because everything in the end should be easy. Like that's why you start off like doing it easy, where you're like everything starts coming in and it starts feeling like, wow, this is actually not hard. Because in the end, it's not hard, but we tend to make things a lot more harder than they should be. And it's really not at the end of the day. It's just like what we get a lot of distractions. There's so many squirrels that come into our life, and it's just like figuring out. But when you're starting to make it more of a lifestyle habit, then things start naturally falling into place where you don't have to think about it. Things just kind of do it as they would.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was looking at your website, and on there, you were sort of talking about helping women with their stories. So I thought maybe you could tell me a little bit more about stories and like why are they important? How does that kind of impact the way we see the world?
Well, because and sorry, I'm trying to like plan this out really nicely, because I believe that when I started my journey, I did not know about my story. I just kind of didn't know who I was. And when I started taking care of myself and figuring out a lot of the stuff that was holding me back, I realized that my why was initially to lose weight, but it ended up being so much more than that. And I think that when you start knowing who you are, knowing your story a lot more, I mean, your why, it becomes like, there's more purpose and more like drive behind that it's actually exciting to know like where you are at and where you have come, and knowing like your whole being around that. It just makes it like, because everyone has a story. Everyone is so special in their own unique way. And I think that when you start to get to know yourself and knowing, you know, what's been holding you back, what's stopping you, and then you're able to relate to your kids, your friends, your like people who are following you, or your clients a lot more, because you start realizing that their story is going to impact other people. And they may not know it then and there. I had no idea then and there, but it's been actually super exciting to feel it's been a life changer. And so the clients that I work with, you know, when I start off with them and I want to know like what their why is, they always say losing weight, but then it's like, no, we need to even start this more. And then it will turn into, I want to have energy for my kids. So because the last thing I want to do is play with my kids, but that's where the connection of them hanging out with their kids and they start learning more about them is more. There's just so much more. Or they want to grow old with their significant other. They want to have energy, like, because energy is what makes the world go round. It's what gives us something to be able to do with our people that are so important around us, and it carries us everywhere. And when you don't feel like that, then everything just kind of starts compiling, where you feel like tired and lethargic and just don't have any purpose, and feel like you get more down on yourself, which is where everything starts becoming more harder and just you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree that our stories play a major role as to why we do things the way we do them. And it's really, really difficult to change when you're not aware of what it is that's driving you to that particular behavior. So if let's say if it's weight loss, well, what were the experiences or the stories about yourself that led you to become overweight in the first place, right?
100%.
And being able to work through some of those reasons, because as you become aware of those reasons as to why you got there, then you feel empowered that you can then do something. So it's not just, well, I'm going to eat this diet, because you know that diet can come and go, right? If you're implementing it into your lifestyle, having an understanding of, again, why it's important, not just from, okay, I just want to lose weight and maybe look better, but all the other important things, the things that we value in life, and certainly having health allows us to do those things, right? And so it makes you more likely to stick with the plan.
Yep. And to go along with what you just said is that sometimes the stories that we tell ourselves are more so non-supportive stories, like more of the I can't, and this only happens to me because, you know, it's like what you focus on grows. So what is the stories you're telling yourself? Are they helping you? Are they encouraging you where you're taking action? Or are they keeping you from taking action where they're more excuses and non-supportive to your habits that you're already doing? So knowing the difference between the two is what is either going to drive you or what's going to keep you back.
Absolutely. And of course, you know, we do have this sort of built-in negativity bias, right? We that's like, I mean, it was a survival thing. And, we're not being chased by lions per se on a day-to-day basis. There might be some that, work in a, in a rescue center, but generally speaking, we're not worrying about the same types of survival that we did, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. But that negativity bias was for survival purposes. We need to scan the environment for, danger and what's sort of bad for us. And I feel like that's kind of like the default mode, and being able to recognize that, hey, I really do think negatively about myself or about the situation. And from that awareness, then you can begin the change.
For sure. Even how what you just said there, and taking it one step further, and like, how do we talk to ourselves? Like what we said before, like, we wouldn't treat our best friend that way. We have to become our own best friend. We have to encourage her. We have to tell her that she's beautiful and she's strong. And it is a fake it till you make it at the beginning. But let me tell you, when you have talked to yourself with the language that you deserve, you're not going to stand up for, like, you're going to stand up for yourself even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have one kind of final point that I wanted to talk with you about, and that's kind of about your podcast. So maybe you could like tell our viewers about your podcast and like why you started it, what they might learn from it.
Yeah. So my podcast is called RELOVE+RISE. I started it initially because it was just a way for me to talk more about my business, talk more about what I do, and talk to amazing people who do amazing things. And one thing I so love about it is that the conversations I've had with everyone, I've learned so much. So I feel like if I'm learning, then I'm helping other people learn more about what other, the types of businesses, like what you do, the pelvic floor, like learning about Kegels and learning about, how, I know, they could listen to it, but that was it was such a great conversation. And I started it also because I wanted women to have a place to go to, something that is less like, so on social media, and figuring out where they could just go on a podcast and listen to what other people's stories are, because stories are what drives us. I think that they're so relatable, and I think that I want them to know that they're not alone at the end of the day. So that is why I started the podcast, and it's been so much fun. So I can't wait for you guys to listen and let me know what you think.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can only say that I had so much fun doing the podcast with you. How can people find your podcast?
Yeah, so they can either go on iTunes I think iTunes is the best one. It's like less crazy, but you can either go on to www.reloveandrise with an AND.com, and you can go access it through there. Or if you go on iTunes, you do Relove with a plus sign and then Rise. That is the brand, so doing certain things on social media or having a website, you can't use the plus sign. So plus sign is a very key thing if you're doing it through iTunes. But yeah, that's how you can find out more about the podcast. And I really want to know what your thoughts are, because I love to be engaged with all my listeners. So
yeah, so make sure you check it out, you subscribe, give feedback. If you love it, write a review, tell Amanda how much you love it, tell your friends. Because I think it's important for us as women to really encourage ourselves and share each other's stories, because it helps us understand our own story. And 100%. So,
oh, that's so nice you say. It's so true. And the thing is, like, it's all about women empowerment. I know this is a big, strong thing that we're all talking about now, but it is because, like, you cannot do stuff like this alone. You need a huge amount of people to help you through, because there's no way I would have been able to get through my journey without an army of people. And just the more you talk about it, the more answers you're going to have, and just about asking those good questions and how can I, instead of why me, why. So
exactly. Well, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on my show. For our viewers, of course, like, contact details will be put like at the end of the video, as well as in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, so that you can get in contact with Amanda if you want to ask more questions, and of course the podcast. So all that information will be up for your convenience. And so thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Madeline. I hope that you have a wonderful day, beautiful.
Oh, you too. Okay, we'll talk to you sooner or later. Okay, bye.